You are just there. Then, do you wonder whether this is all there is in your calling as a worship team member or a worship team leader or a band member, or the calling that you have that pertains and touches the worship ministry? You look at it and you wonder, yani tu ndio niliitiwa. This is all there is. Yani ni kuimba tu na kuketi kumotivate watu waombe, kuambia Mungu ni mwema nini. Then, are you on the verge of giving up and throwing in the towel? And are you called to serve God? You may ask yourself, am I called to serve God in this area? Or did I commission myself? Or was still my zeal alone drove me into this roller coaster drive? You know, unaweza ona watu wanaimba, associate now, and you find yourself in the bandwagon. But you just find yourself wondering, am I called for this? So we look at it. There is a but here. Why should service to God end up with such kind of experiences? Remember, we are talking about understanding the calling. Should you have to go through such experiences if they are actually there? Should it all be rosy when the call is as clear as day? What do we mean? Unajua, the calling, does it mean that when you have a calling, then everything will just be sweet? You are called to be a father of nations. Does it mean then that you'll just be a father of nations and you'll enjoy to see many nations around? Actually, even the Bible says that Moses did not live to see. See, that's the Bible. I'm not saying that you'll not live to see the huduma ambayo unafanya, the fruits of it. But as you continue walking with God, you will realize this. So what possibly goes wrong? These are not the questions we'll be discussing. These are questions that are laying an introduction and a foundation to analyze ourselves or to critically look at the calling we have been called. So there could be two scenarios at play when hardship is encountered in the process of actualizing a call. Kuna mambo mawili yanaweza kuwa yakitendeka when you find yourself in a place where you are no longer enjoying that which you know for sure you are called to do. One, you could be entangled in a ministry you are not called, thereby becoming a stumbling block for others. Unajua kuna mtu bado anatafuta what they are called to do. So ana land in the worship team in their trial. Ama they think they are called. And we look at a very funny note as we proceed. Then, wewe ambaye umejoin thinking that this was your call, you make those who are called and they are sure and they're in the calling to feel like they want to give up. Yeah. That could be one scenario. Or it could be that you are called, truly called, but you are not adequately equipped to handle the demands and the calling of the ministry. Well, uliitwa ukaitika, but you didn't know the salt, the pepper, the sugar, the pain, the sweetness of what you've been called to do. So you are not prepared. Well, unajipata tu vitu zinakufanyikia na hujui what to do about it. You know, allow me to say this. Nowadays, I don't know about the days of old, our bishop used to tell us that wao walioana tu. They learnt the art of marriage in the process. But we are privileged, sisi ambao tuko kwa hii generation ambao we are married. Na usipite shortcut so that you don't lose this privilege. We had the advantage of going through kitu inaitwa premarital counseling. It's like a debriefing of what marriage is about, tackling different areas that generate conflict, separation and divorce, or makes a marriage successful. So tukapitishwa. And I remember there were about 7 or 8 topics that we handled. about what is love, how to handle a relationship, finances, conflict, and those kinds of things. So that when you now, ukiwa kwa ndoa or in a marriage setting, and you encounter something that looks like what you are alerted, you will not run or find, Banana Republic rules to sort it out. But you will know, you will refer to your notes. So you can imagine you are called into this ministry, you don't know what it demands and what it requires. Then you are faced with challenges, conflict. Remember we talked about conflict some time back. Ni nani walikuwa kwa hiyo training? Don't lift your hand. But there were some people, we did handling conflict, and it was quite an intense moment. Yes, let me just say that. So remember, the dynamics of a ministry are such that teamwork is a requirement. Therefore, every team member called must understand the call, understand the demand of the call, and your role towards realizing the desired goals. Ukiitwa kwa worship team, haujaitwa peke yako, ati hawa watu wengine wanakuja kukubak. Hata hawa wameitwa. Si ati wewe ni wewe umeitwa sana kuliko wale wengine. So, they are there to serve you. That I know is not sweet. But it is starting to get hot. So, it's a teamwork. I've been called, you've been called, we are walking in this journey. So we need to understand the calling. We need to understand your calling in a demand nini ndio tuweze ku accomplish the desired goals. That is all that we are saying. And before we move, as we move forward, we want to define these words that I've been using, a call and a calling, so that you don't you think of a call, you look at your mobile, you hear a call, unaanza kusikia vibrations and your melody of the phone, because a mind has just a trigger to identify things. So a calling, according to the dictionary, if you Google in your dictionary, online dictionaries or the one that you have at home, you'll see this: to appoint, to designate as of an office, duty, or employment. So you are appointed, you are given a position or designation to operate in the office. When we talk about office, ni ile mambo unafaa kuwa ukifanya. For example, if you are appointed as a salesperson in an organization, there are duties zile zinahitajika kwa hiyo ofisi, si ndio? Yeah. Wewe hufai kufagia. That is not your responsibility. That is another office. Then there are some duties that are required for you to do. Duties. And of course, in the setting that you are looking at, it's not necessarily an employment. Right. But we are talking about a duty. And you want to look at, because everything that we do and train here is based on the Bible. So Exodus 31:3, if we look at it and read, when you see dashes, it means we've skipped some information so that we bring relevance to what we are saying. So see, I have called by name. Unaona vile Mungu huita, haiti kerende. Does not say nyinyi kujeni. No, he calls you by name. This guy called Bezalel. And I have filled him with the Spirit of God. So callings of God require his enablement. With wisdom, with understanding, with knowledge, and with all kinds of skills. And that is why we have these sessions. Because if God has called you, he is the one who is going to provide these avenues. It's up to you to pick them or not. Because I'm imagining, huyu labda alipata software. He was loaded. The moment the Spirit of God came upon him, yeye alikuwa tu kila kitu. But you can imagine for him to exemplify ama hizi vitu, the knowledge, the understanding that is given, for it to be seen, he has to do something. Execution. Otherwise it will be useless. Mungu amekupatia, he has wired you to become a worship team member. And we look at it in detail. But again, you don't do anything about it. God amewezi, you are like the person who God gave one talent. The parable of the talents, the guy who has one. But I'm not going there. Paul, in Romans chapter 1, verse 1, a servant of Jesus Christ, called to be what? An apostle. That is an office. And set apart for the gospel. The task is to spread the gospel. The office is apostleship. And Peter, and you look at this, in 2 Peter 1:10, quickens our understanding, and I believe that is why you are here, that you give diligence. Diligence is hard work, or having your input to make what? Your calling and election sure. That is your responsibility. God has nothing to do with it. He will wire you well, fill you with wisdom and all kinds of skills, but it is up to you to be what? Diligent, so that you can make. Amtaki hiyo ni sawa. Tuendelee. Let's define what a calling is. We've addressed a call. What is a calling? A calling, of course, it is a word that has been added ing. na wale watu wanajua Kiingereza sijui, what is this in terms of English? What is a call? What is a calling? Is it an adjective, a noun, or whatever? Sam and Jake. Mwalimu. It's an adverb. Okay. Let's leave it. I was not good in English except the one I'm talking. But nilipita by the grace of God. Okay. So, a calling is a divine summon. A divine sermon, a vocation, or an invitation. Invitation ni kama calling. If a calling ni kuite, ukuje, there can be that. A summon, you are summoned to do something. There is this guy nasi mwenye alitengeneza Guinness, but I realized, that is why I put in brackets. I was curious to know why it's called Os Guinness. But I realized he's an author of Christian literature and is also a theologian. He defines a calling as the truth that God calls us to himself so decisively. And everything we are, do, and have is invested with a special devotion and direction lived out as a response to his sermons and service. And I think we have a verse, hiyo nimesoma hapa ya Bezalel. God is so decisive. He has called you with clarity. Habahatishi. He has called you with clarity, decisiveness, so that what we are called to be, one, to do, and have, so that we execute what we are called to do, is invested in us. He's the one who invests.